Welcome to CrossTech World 2024. It is my pleasure and honor to have with us Odilon Almeida. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, for the CrossTech community, and why did you choose to join us this year once again?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here, which I think it's one and only, I would say, event in the United States encompassing all the cross-border industry. My name is Odilon Almeida Jr, and I work today with private equity. I have my own company, AJ Holdings Co., where I do seed money and Series A, always in the field of financial services, fintech, and technology. And I'm also an operating partner of Advent International, where I do late stage in the same field. So I like to say that I'm covering from early stage to late stage now in private equity in my new life. Before that, I was the CEO of ACI Worldwide, and before that, the Western Union president of Global Money Transfer.
And for us, it's such a pleasure to have investors like yourself, because what we've seen is a lot of startups and even well-established companies are always looking for, an investor behind them so they don't lose time to market to innovate. And having presence of investors like you, and it really gives the community the full 360 landscape that we've been looking for. This is something new for us, so we're happy that you're able to fulfill the ecosystem. So the first question is, we're going to focus on the future of global payments. So as someone with deep expertise in that segment, tell us what is currently working well, and what are you seeing as the shape of the future of the industry?
I'm very much on the forefront of that because I was the CEO of ACI Worldwide, the global leader in real-time payments technology, and Western Union, the global leader in cross-border. And now I'm at the board of the Votorantim Bank in Brazil, which is a 100% digital bank in Brazil, and the local leader in auto loans, and 100% digital with all the technology that you have in Brazil. I'm seeing three movements in the world of financial services that will really, I would say, reshape the environment, as it happened in Brazil, in India, in Malaysia, in UAE, and it's coming to the United States sooner or later. The first movement, it's open finance. Open finance, when it starts, when the regulators get serious about that, it changes the environment. Because the regulation and the licenses, you get much more options in the market, and you get new players and disruption and everything else. So I think open finance is the first movement. The second movement is real-time payments. And the real-time payments also change the whole infrastructure. At the same time that goes in the part of cash payments, it enters in the payments with credit cards tremendously and changes totally the environment. And the third one that is just started, and I think Brazil has very important plans against that, are the CBDs, the central bank currencies. And that is gonna totally change the cross-border movement. Imagine the day where you're gonna have central banks settling directly with the central banks, by the way, without the dollar, and you're gonna have the institutions settling only with the central banks. So you're not gonna have banks and financial institutions involved in cross-border treasury anymore. All the treasury is gonna be done directly from the central banks.
So that's gonna be so transparent.
And it's gonna be low cost, and it's gonna change the world.
Brazil keeps making the movement of being the innovators in that space. I know you said open finance, you said real-time payments, and now you said currencies, and Brazil has been kind of the leader in the three of them.
In the three of them, and I can tell you one thing that I see in the world. For example, you get those movements that are disruptive, right?
Yes.
You can see that only happens or happening in countries with strong regulators and central banks. Brazil, UAE, India, Malaysia, UK, you have a regulator that just go to the financial institutions and say, this is going to be the rule of thumb. And that's where innovation happens. So we need to have strong, I would say, regulators and strong central banks directing those innovations.
So let's talk a little bit about challenges. So where do you see the challenges as the main 3 points that you brought?
I think there are many challenges because you add to it generative AI on top of it, right?
Yes.
So you can imagine how this can go. I think the challenge to all of that change, and I'm not talking about lighter regulation or lighter controls. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a more free market, right? But when that happens with generative AI, we need to pay double attention to compliance and cybersecurity. Because in the boards that I'm sitting, I always say, you have an industry of fraud, you have an industry of crime that is only doing that. Yeah. And you know what? They are learning generative AI also.
Yeah, and that's why also for CrossTech, we had 3 days of courses in compliance, and we did talk about risk assessment, we talk about licensing, and we also talk about auditing to make sure that we always have that top of mind. It's a perfect segue for the next question. We're going to talk about navigating governance and compliance. Mm-hmm. So what lessons have you learned when you're navigating through complexities while maintaining standards?
I think it is zero risk in that sense. Yes, you cannot have I always say you should not have a compliance business. You should have a compliant business. Because a compliance business doesn't exist for a financial institution. A compliant business, yes. So you need to be sure that the rules does not stop you of doing business, but you need to be very strong with compliance overall. Let me tell you about one episode that I just got. I was at MIT in a full immersion in AI, generative AI, and there was a session about crimes. And they were sharing some crimes around the globe. And they showed one that happened in Europe. A treasurer of a bank received an email from the CEO saying, wire this amount of money, it's fraud. So he said, I can't, I need to have a meeting. And the CEO by email said, let's have a meeting. They have a video meeting with the CEO and 2 other guys of C-suite, and he wires the money. It was all AI.
Wow.
There was no one there. So imagine when the world is going with fraud, compliance, and regulation. So I would say we need to have double the attention now.
Yeah.
So the attention should go even higher than in the past.
And I think with the emerging technologies, we have to, yes, we want to accept, yes, we want to move faster, but we also have to make sure, how do you assess that risk so you have the right tools in place to be able to push? And actually, we had a conversation yesterday on the instant payment panel where we discussed that even kidnapping sometimes through those things have happened. Just another example of how important is the complexity of adapting compliance programs that are very focused. I did an interview last time that we talked about compliance is the beginning of everything, but it's also the end. So that's something that sticks with me, and I think it sticks with, we are in a regulated business.
Yes.
Money movement is very regulated, and that has to be in everyone's radar. So going into, I want to talk about a little bit shaping strategy in a rapidly evolving world. You have extensive experience of being a company, your career, all the great things you've done in your time in Western Union and now in the other side as the investment community. Tell us a little bit, how do you approach setting strategies for the balanced short-term goals and also long-term opportunities, especially in fintech and technology, because that's the theme of the conversations that we're having the next 3 days.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little radical now.
Sure.
I would say there is no long-term without short-term. So I think short-term comes first. So if you need to prioritize anything for cash flow, prioritize it for cash flow. I think that comes first, but that's not enough.
Yes.
Because you can do that for 1 year. The other way to say it also, it's very easy to grow 1 year or 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, it's more complicated. So you need to balance that. But I would say when people tell me, no, we need to damage the short term to build the long term, I say, no. Tell me how those two can live together. And I always go like that for any kind of company. And I think it is possible. It is possible for you to set on strategies that preserve your cash flow. And sometimes you need to make trade-offs. It's not going to be that amount of cash flow, but it's still a healthy business while you build the long term.
Yeah, what I've seen also is sometimes when you're a startup, let's say, or a fintech, you're so focused on making the short term that you forget the long term.
That is true.
So it's being able to have that balance, because if not, you can take too many high risks, and then you're not able to be at the year 3, like we discussed today. That year 3 is really where you're going to see if your strategy is going to fulfill or not. So that's something that
happens with mature companies, right?
Yes.
So when I was the CEO of ACI Worldwide, We changed the company. We bring the company to Rule of 40 in 1 year. We accelerate the growth. We did all of those things. But after doing 2 or 3 years of that, yes, we say, okay, if we don't invest big time now in the next wave of technology, yes, that's going to last like 3 or 4 years. That's it. Because all of that was operational efficiency. Besides operational efficiency, you need to have innovation, yeah, and you need to invest behind innovation. So you have 100% right about that. You cannot, even in public companies, you cannot have the horizon only of short term. You need to think about the next wave.
And I'm going to share a story I think you're going to appreciate. With us, we saw a lot of agencies and big remittances companies that were only focused on the in-person model. Then what happened? COVID happened. Then digitalization was mandatory. Yeah. And we saw big names who were not in the digital space having to become a startup because they were starting a new business, even though they were a very tenured company. So I think this goes very in line into what we are discussing here today. So to close, Odilon, we admire you as a leader.
Thank you.
You've built great corporate culture, and we've seen that through your career, and now also through the deals you've been through. You mentioned today that you care about the people. So tell us a little bit about your background on that, and knowing that 80 countries, diverse teams, what key leadership principles are important to you, and how do you drive that through high performance across the various markets that you've been managing?
First of all, thank you for kind words. It's good to have friends. So thank you for that. And I think it is about people, as I told you before, and it's about respecting people wherever and whenever they are. So when I go to a country, I always say to myself, there's no rule of thumb. You need to really understand the local culture, how they behave, how they are, and then come from there. Yeah. You cannot come from where you are. And this right or wrong judgment, most of the time it doesn't fit. Again, there's some black and whites, but without those black and whites, I'll give you an example. You go to Saudi Arabia and you negotiate the whole day, and if the day after, if you don't sign in the night, you don't have anything. It starts everything again, because it's part of the culture. They negotiate until the last moment. They are supposed to do that. You cannot get irritated because of that. You go to Uruguay and you have a dinner with that guy, handshaking, and it's done. It's not going to open, because that's the culture there. There's no better, worst, right or wrong. It is just different, right? So I would say, first of all, it's all about people. And number two is you need to respect the different cultures and different personalities that you face, right? So.
And what I've seen also is you need to immerse yourself. I remember early in my career, also I used to do business in Asia. And then I'll say, I've been here 10 times and I still haven't closed. But that's how you build trust.
Yes.
It's like you said.
Exactly
so
right.
I always say 10 meetings, especially for the Asian market, is when you're getting close to the closing table.
Yeah.
So I think I value some of your advice, because I think respect people, being part of understanding where they're coming from, can lead to great corporate cultures. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your vision and your insights, and also for coming now from the investor's perspective to the cross-border payment space. It's an honor, pleasure to have you with us, and I really appreciate your presence.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here. Thank you for
joining CrossTech World. We're looking forward for you to joining our conversations. #CrossTech Payments, #CrossTech World.